Speakers International Global High School Union is holding its second International Youth Forum. This year, many different events ranging from the English speech competition to the online charity bazaar have taken place. Thinking back of all the activities we have done as a whole, this year has been very meaningful, allowing us to move a step forward in development and making a change. The International Youth Forum will celebrate these important moments. Speakers will elaborate and make meaningful speeches regarding their experiences helping North Korean refugees in a variety of unique ways. The International Youth Forum will serve as a bridge between the Commission and efforts of the dedicated members during the following years, and the Commission and determination leading into the future of this organization. Thank you, everyone who is here and will participate in the forum, and let's begin.
Hi everyone, my name is Hyungin and I'm the co-director of the FSI Global High School Union. Today, I'd like to introduce some of the many activities that the Global High School Union has to offer. The union was formed to unite the many different humanitarian activities that high school students from all over the globe wanted to go forward with. Ranging from fundraising to education opportunities, we've fostered a welcoming atmosphere for all sorts of activities that help those in need. In order to make that a reality, we've created easily discernible divisions that help students join activities and create new ones if they'd like to do so. High school students have formed school chapters that host large-scale opportunities like bazaar fundraising events, while others have chosen to operate as teams with members from various schools. Independent projects are welcome as well. Now, I'd like to introduce a selection of several excellent opportunities that members of the Global High School Union have been participating in. Starting with fundraising, we have activities like the online bazaar. Students donate personal items like board games and cosmetics to the bazaar and sell them to raise funds. The most recent bazaar successfully concluded with all of their items sold out. There's also the miracle of the 10,000 won campaign. Sponsors can donate 10,000 won to help North Korean refugees write and present their stories in English without struggling financially. Students are directed to use a referral system that accumulates points based on the number of people that they invite to the campaign, and those with the most points are awarded the Hero of the Month award. Minjae Kim was our most recent Hero of the Month, actively striving to attract donors for the cause. Congratulations. In our mentoring activities, student volunteers mentor North Korean youth students on English and various other academic subjects and receive volunteer hours for their efforts. In our translation opportunities, student volunteers translate materials from speakers, articles, and even novels. We also host birthday fundraising projects, where leaders of the Global High School Union can set up online fundraising campaigns on their birthday to invite donations from friends and family. Moving on to school projects, we have a variety of activities like the running club that's headed by Sungjun Lee, who organizes cross-country runs to raise funds for North Korean refugees. We also welcome independent projects like Tony Ban, an FSI ambassador who has set up a site to sell handmade products. This is a great way to use one's talents to give back to the community, even as an individual. Outside of that, the Global High School Union forms committees composed of volunteer applicants and operates annual speech competitions for high school students, with the intent to promote critical thinking on relevant issues like climate change, spurring intelligent discussion and the dissemination of socially aware topics. The Global High School Union encourages all students to take initiative and seek out new opportunities, and we love seeing new projects pop up. Pitching a new project and leading it will also entail benefits through the point system through the form of awards, and we strongly recommend for all students to take initiative in making their own opportunities. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing your participation in our many activities.
Hi there, this is Minjoo Kim, who is in charge of FSI-GHSU fundraising team. It is very honored to share our team's project status with all of you. As all of you know well, this kind of organization has been launched this year first, and I was assigned to take a team leader role through several processes, and 16 members were joined fundraising team. We made 3 projects for raising funds from the point of students' view. I think it will be shown as non-professional work, but we are in the process of learning about everything, so please just support our activities. Among 3 projects, I would like to introduce 2 projects. Once I received the member list from Miss Lee, I requested a meeting call to our team members for sharing the planned project in 21 and 22. During the summer vacation, fundraising team had a weekly meeting to launch our project. We really worked hard for launching first online charity bazaar and Miracle of KRW 10,001 campaign. First, we completed first FSI online charity bazaar 1 month ago. Our original plan was offline charity bazaar, but as you know well, we could not guarantee offline meeting due to forced pandemic of COVID-19. So we replaced offline with online. In order to conduct online bazaar, online platform is required and goods are also required. Our team made an idea in utilizing FSI online store which was built in already and Ms. Lee approved it. After getting approval from her, we started to make Google form for goods donation, and at the same time, we made our PR video what introduced our activities days. According to FSI official confirmation, about 300 items were donated from 21 students. For uploading the goods in the FSI online store, all of the team members did Photoshop work to meet the planned opening date. Our last mission was to sort out and package the sold goods. Thus, all of the members visited the FSI office on October 3rd and 4th. I am happy to complete our first online charity bazaar with all of interest and support. Our team plans to hold second charity bazaar soon. Please expect our next event a lot. Second is Miracle of KRW 10,001 campaign. This campaign has been launched on September 1st and will be continued by June next year. Main purpose of this campaign is to increase number of regular adult sponsors for providing an environment where North Korean refugees can empower through English speech and writing their stories in English without financial difficulties. Special award will be given to those selected as hero or heroine of the month, with the most sponsor. Here is a September hero, and it is me. I feel like I was working as an internship through these 2 activities because our team member learned overall work process, such as planning, role assignment, production, and execution, and how to set the priority, the way of communication, and effective public relation. We just started to help someone but realized how important it is to live with others and community. The importance of the world without prejudice and living together is the world what I am dreaming. Thank you for your attention and listening.
I've almost spent my entire life in a small world from home to school, sometimes from home to Hyowon. When I came home from school, I had tons of homework and had to study for the test to be prepared. All I wanted to do was finish homework, study, and play computer games. Some changes happened about 2 years ago when I joined Freedom Speakers International. At first, I was indifferent from who the North Korean refugees were or why they had to leave their home country. I saw Kim Jong-un on TV shaking hands with the former President Donald Trump, who called him a friend. I just joined FSI because my sister recommended it. The first activity was to participate in a speech contest. The topic of my speech was North Korea was a hermit crab. To prepare for the speech, I did no research about how the North Korean dictator tries to control information and brainwash the North Korean people. I grew up in the US and I've always had the freedom to say what I thought, so the idea that the North Korean dictator dominates the citizens really shocked me. Knowledge I gained preparing the speech contest really helped me when I was finally engaged in my research paper regarding the origin of COVID-19 and communism in the world history class at school. Just like how Kim Jong-un controls the newspaper and the TV, President Xi censors the internet and newspapers. He even kidnapped reporters. The second activity I participated in was mentoring a North Korean woman for a speech contest. I've never done teaching in my life, and I've never imagined that I could help someone with my English. I felt satisfied whenever I corrected her grammar and her spelling. We've only met 4 times, but I saw her English getting improved. One thing I regret is that my student wanted to have more chances to communicate with me in English because I'm a native speaker, but I was more focused on writing the script because I didn't want my student humiliated in front of her audience. The third activity was participating in a teacher logo contest. Since I always do homework, study for tests, and do computer games in my small world, I never had a chance to think about designing teacher logos. When I read about a teacher logo contest in my email, I just assumed that I couldn't do it. It was about the third time when I received a reminder in the form of an email about the teacher logo contest. I was already too tired to memorize the names of compounds in chemistry class, so I decided to give it a try. Design and went to the FSI-GHSU website many times to gain knowledge about what I should emphasize in the design, such as the purpose of the organization, the main activities, and the target audience. After that, I looked through several shopping mall sites that my mom and my sister used to buy their clothes. After getting ideas of how t-shirts should look like, I decided to put three things in my t-shirt. First, the name of the organization was needed to show that this person belongs to FSI-GHSU. Second, the speaker should be included because it is our main activity. Third, participants, in this case, high school students, should be presented and I wanted them to look enjoyable. Designing t-shirt logos reminded me of the purpose of the organization and motivated me to contribute more in FSI activities. Through FSI-GHSU activities, my interest in North Korean refugees and human rights has grown significantly. To expand my understanding that I learned at FSI-GHSU, I was engaged in a study about the discrimination of criminal law based on race and gender at Duke University last summer. Furthermore, I'm taking a seminar regarding international human rights. The activities that I participated in at FSI-GHSU enabled me to connect my small world to the big world. Through these activities, I could communicate with other people in a different culture, learn the difficulties they faced, and contribute to their lives. Now, I'm very thankful that I joined FSI-GHSU.
Hello, my name is Ansu Lee, and I'm from YISS, and I'm the current winner of the FSI second speech competition. And if everyone is ready, then I'd like to start my speech. Okay. The year is 2097, Corona is history, and you wake up for a normal day of work. Wearing your student tie sharply along your body, you grab an oxygen mask and head outside. Along the road, you see metallic grass rooted against the sidewalks, imitating photosynthesis through a set of ones and zeros. And yes, I agree with you, I wish this was just a hypothetical. Climate change is a subject that stings society at its very core. While the amount of pollution above our heads directly reflect our negligence as a species, we've come to realize our shortcomings and started to make changes. Changes that matter. Changes that directly counter the problem of global warming and its grave consequences no longer hidden from society. And currently, at the start of a fairly new decade, both companies and individuals need to step up in order to take responsibility of saving our future. Now, the problem of climate change can partly be traced back to global monopolies. Throughout modern history, companies have had a notable role in shaping our climate. By raising through excessive amounts of trees while maintaining tremendously cheap oil prices, they've been killing our source of healing while replicating the very atmosphere that swears to destroy our planet. Statistically, the development of environmentally harmful monopolies have led to the top 100 companies responsible for engendering 71% of our atmospheric pollution. While most condemn their behavior as leading corporations, the problem is daunting and seemingly impossible to fix when demand for cheap and premium products never comes to an end. Then, this puts society at a halt. What do corporations do in order to supply the never-ending demand while simultaneously becoming environmentally friendly? Against any fake aspirations claiming that all companies should just change their production methods at a moment of notice, a realistic approach is to establish bite-sized changes through a course of several years. For example, like the company Starbucks, over a course of 5 years, they've replaced every straw in their shop from plastic to paper. This seemingly unnoticeable act, performed with small changes, eventually saved our planet from an annual trashing of 1 billion straws. Much like this, a company's role within the status quo is to make these small efforts like Starbucks in bringing in an environmentally stable planet. But again, while companies need to change over time, we as individuals can also make an impact through our daily choices. As part of a cause advocating on behalf of a better environment, a simple act of just doing a little bit more and taking that one step will lead to an accumulation of changes. Starting from separating your trash properly in order to save renewable resources or using every square centimeter on a piece of paper, anyone can be a benefactor to the world. And personally, as someone who's lived in a tropical country for a very long time, I've made and will continue to make progress in order to preserve the beauty of nature. My intentions are best shown in actions as I've only followed the news to save and actively engage in many school-sponsored clubs aimed at raising money for environmental projects. Steps like these, though being very minuscule, have and will continue to be my plan in order to do as much as possible for our world. Over the course of past few decades, as individuals are more and more keen for environmental products, the supplies of companies have shifted for the new demand. And through this favorable cycle, companies and individuals realize a harmonious goal to preserve nature amidst the crisis. Companies such as Tesla or Fresh have shed light on a new possibility: technological change. Additionally, scientific innovations such as carbon capture all the way to agricultural changes such as feeding cows seaweed, society has worked together in order to make a substantial difference along with previously mentioned efforts. Ultimately, progress like these start to show a new trend: climate betterment. With how change is occurring at such a massive scale through minuscule actions along with prominent innovations, companies and individuals naturally need to mirror each other and achieve reasonable goals. And through harmony and cooperation, let's make sure to prevent a world with robotic graphs made of ones and zeros. And more seriously, let's make sure to work to achieve a world with a climate-stable society. Thank you.
As much as I remember, all the adults have told me that people are born all equal and all their lives are valuable throughout the world. Nevertheless, I recently realized that their saying was not applicable to all the countries in the world. What shocked me greatly was after I listened to a speech made by one of FSI speakers, Yoon Park. All the unfairness, death threats, and risking lives to escape the freedom was not just a story on the other side of the world. Ms. Park told us her life story in North Korea. She was highly restricted to follow only rules their government set. Those rules include not only fashion styles but also hairstyles. Everyday lives, including her, were strictly controlled by their government, and not following the regulation meant heavy penalties, including executions. One day, Ms. Park encountered Korean TV shows which were strictly banned in North Korea. All the freedoms that actors show from the show ignited her eagerness to seek freedom. Eventually, after suffering from a long, perilous journey, she arrived in South Korea when she turned 21. The freedom she achieved, however, was not as easy as she imagined. She struggled with supporting herself, and she was lonely. Sometimes her life in a country where freedom is given was tougher than in her hometown. All the jobs which she was able to apply were only restricted to the service jobs or requiring much manpower. Even in some jobs, she was not able to work largely due to her lack of second language such as English. It was definitely not fair for her to be judged the samely as other South Korean job seekers because she was not given the same level of education as her competitors did. Although society treated her unequally, she did not give up. After a vigorous years of working and learning, she even went to college and graduated successfully. Ms. Park's life story gave me a moment to ask myself, aged 18 years old, almost the same as Ms. Park came to South Korea, I am still young and talented due to my family support. If I were in her situation, would I be able to overcome the hurdle in front of me? Would I be able to risk my life to leave my hometown to live alone and support myself with my own power just for freedom? I still cannot answer those questions, but now I am certain that I want to become a person like her who can inspire to take a look back at themselves. In order to do that first thing, I have decided to change myself and contribute to small things to the world little by little. I may not be a audacious person as Miss Park is, but as the saying goes, a butterfly fluttering its wing in the China causes a hurricane in the Caribbean. The small thing I started to contribute is to help North Korean refugees by supporting the FSI organization, which assists North Korean refugees settling down in South Korea by providing them necessary items. and even educations. Ms. Park was also aided by the organization. By myself, I am still too young to find and help refugees in persons. Thus, I am supporting fully and giving my two hands in need of the organization. Recently, I took a part in raising a fundraiser to inform others and raise funds to assist the refugees. At this point, my action may be blurry. However, I strongly believe that by adding small things by little, one day I contribute to the world where all lives are equal and treated valuably truly. Until the day comes, my support to change the world will not be stopped. Thank you.
My grandfather fled to South Korea from the north during the Korean War. At the age of 18, he arrived in South Korea alone with nothing in his hands. I remember how my grandfather used to tell men stories about life and death during the war. He said that the loneliness and the longing for his family was the hardest thing to take. Hearing those stories growing up had a huge influence on me, and I've always been interested about the situations in North Korea ever since. Through books and documentaries, I've learned even more about the reality of what goes on there. It seemed like fate when I heard about FSI, which was the perfect place for me to do something to help defectors like my grandfather. As a descendant of defector, I've always felt emotional attachment to the issue, and that has been the motivation for my volunteer work. I would like to speak in particular about how I was the mentor for a defector participating in an English speech contest. I was excited about being able to help a defector, but at the same time I was worried about whether I could do a good job teaching English. After all, I was still only a student who had no experience. I was hesitant about taking on the responsibility of becoming someone's mentor. But I knew that at the very least, trying was better than doing nothing. It was a challenge at first. Becoming a teacher is much more complicated than it looks, and I've gained much more respect for my teachers at school as a result. That's not to mention that the mentee I was assigned to was a gentleman much more older than me. He worked in an office and his English was not as good as I had hoped it would be. The biggest obstacle was setting times for our classes. My mentee had a really busy schedule because he was working in an office. In jobs like that, you don't really have a fixed schedule because meetings and tasks can just be added in a blink of an eye. I had to constantly check whether the time we had set was still okay. There was a time where he suddenly canceled the class without any notice. Things like that only increased my worry because I wanted my mentee to do well. I turned to my father for advice. I knew that he would be able to help because he had even produced a documentary about North Korean defectors. My father explained the differences in culture and environment that I needed to consider. And he provided me with a lot of advice on how to understand my mentee better through stories that he had gathered from interviews with various defectors. Finding work as a North Korean defector is hard enough. Competing in an English speech contest must have seemed like an insurmountable mountain. I felt like I understood my mentee better now. After learning about his situation, I did my best to accommodate his schedule and work to improve my mentoring classes. I prepared beforehand for things like writing the manuscript and speaking practice. As time went by, we became more passionate about practicing for the speech contest. I made up for my less than perfect English with hard work, and after 2 or 3 months of preparation, I felt that my mentee was ready to participate. I was so proud because it must have been an even more difficult challenge for him and even more rewarding to finally give that speech. My time at FSI has helped me develop an attitude of understanding and patience. Truly understanding others starts with a heart of empathy. Those worries I had about being qualified enough are long gone in the wind. Because I realized the power of taking action. Helping someone can be a great challenge, but it is always worth it. During our last class, I looked at my adult mentee focusing hard on memorizing his speech. At that moment, I saw the face of my grandfather and every other defector I had met. FSI gave me the opportunity to have a meaningful experience that started with my grandfather. It allowed me to grow and think about how I can have an impact on the world. I'd like to express my gratitude to the co-founder and co-president, Mr. Cassie Latik and Ms. Eungu Lee, and the FSI staff for providing me with this precious experience.
Hello, fellow members of Freedom Speakers International, Global High School Union, FSI-GHSU. My name is Hyun, and I'm a 10th grade student in Seoul Scholars International. I'm here to introduce the motivation that made me join the FSI. The various efforts and activities that Group FSI has attempted to help North Korean refugees have really inspired me in so many different ways. They are literally defectors, and unfortunately, they are seen as traitors of their country. And to be honest, I recognize that such a view of North Korean refugees is held true within South Korean society. We have a strong image that South Korea and North Korea are enemies and are demonstrating North Korea as a country that is relatively falling behind South Korea. However, Before the day when North and South Korea has disunified, 1945 August 17, we were families who lived together and helped each other. Therefore, North Korean refugees are people after all and should be treated with respect and kindness. My goal is to take a human-to-human approach towards the refugees and ultimately help them understand that the North and the South are not enemies, but rather a family that helps each other whenever in need of help. First of all, I'm a person who values experiences that I've never experienced before, which are new experiences, simply. I'm always grateful when I grasp an opportunity in a given environment that I live in. Meeting North Korean defectors and teaching English obviously is not an opportunity that most people can experience. Particularly motivated by the fact that it will provide me with a feeling that I've never experienced in daily life. Leaving my comfort zone and conversing, sharing things with others, I can present with my feelings and strengths, while they can also present me with their own colors and emotions through education. This is more of a personal idea, but we should really think about the fundamental reason why, that they decided to escape their own nations with the risk of being caught. If you actually think about it, they haven't done anything wrong. They were merely born in a country called North Korea that is comparatively compulsory, which actually indicates that they have been dying to pursue their own freedom. Us, and I luckily, was born in South Korea. However, the lives of North Korean defectors are clearly divided according to the simple birthplace of us. I realized this inevitable truth and unavoidable fact, and I wanted to help. This is my personal philosophy and my biggest concern these days. Therefore, throughout this experience, I wanted to practice my personal philosophy and beliefs. And at that moment, I made a clear decision that it is my role to minimize the burden of difficulties they're undergoing. I decided to help them with English since English is the language required in Korea for tons of different reasons. And also it is used in most countries also. I hope I can be a little help to them as they enter into society. Additionally, inside many teams in FSI-GHSU, I'm currently on the fundraising team, and this organization is a team with the most activities and active activities. The fundraising team, what the name literally says, starts with the ideas of various projects and activities, and we run them. It was nice to have an option to join this team since I also wanted to help North Korean defectors by creating my own ideas. In addition, I thought that I can actively participate in coming up with new ideas to apply for it. This is the end of my speech, and I hope for someone to be motivated by my reasons. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends of FSI. I am Yoorim Jang, a senior from Korean Minjok Leadership Academy. About a year ago, October 20th, 2020, I was recognized as a member of FSI. To celebrate my anniversary in this organization, I would like to reminisce about that moment and explain why I joined FSI. I was born and raised in Gosong, Gangwon Province, where it was no more than a 30-minute drive to the borderline. Many of my school trips were to the Unification Observatory, and I saw military trucks and tanks every morning on my way to school. Since young, I was familiar with the remnants of North Korea, yet I was only allowed to see them in the form of camouflage green and spiked wires. I wanted to find a more humanitarian way to connect with my surroundings, and I chose FSI. The most memorable moment I had in my year-long experience in FSI was my first activity as a member, when I mentored in the 2021 North Korean Refugee Speech Contest. It was the first time I connected to a North Korean refugee. Despite my lack of experience, it was an honor that I was able to connect with her for weeks, and I also think that I am lucky that she was about my age. We were still under a strictly controlled environment to ensure that her personal story stays personal. We were only allowed to use English. We were not allowed to engage in private conversations, and every meeting was recorded. However, I could tell that she and I were very alike and that we were both Korean teenage girls. Nevertheless, under her cheerful voice, She had a painful story of her journey south, something that I will never dare to speak of. There was nothing much I could do as a fellow student, so I hoped that my duty as a mentor could somehow help her stay in South Korea. Maybe some of the English public speaking skills I share with her might encourage her to participate in larger presentations in the future. Based on my knowledge, my impression of this organization is that it doesn't require students to do activities beyond their abilities. Based on each of our talents and interests, we can play our role in empowering the refugees in a creative and approachable manner, just like my mentoring experience. Before I joined FSI, my perspective of North Korea and its refugees was very limited to what I've seen in Kosom. The experience with my mentee, however, taught me that maybe interactions with the North is not rocket science. It is not just about government and military actions or awkward handshakes between leaders, but something that even a teenager like me can achieve. And I hope our sparks of contribution can gather to become fireworks that light up our world and make real change. Thank you.
Nice to meet you everyone. My name is Hyunchan and I'm a new member of FSI-GHSU. Since my childhood, I always wanted to make some changes for others who are in hard situations. You know, people who suffer alone or people who need support. So I just took every chance that I could help others and tried my best that I could do to make their situations better. But now my circumstances have changed a lot. I've become so busy that I can't look around. I admitting myself that I've changed. Recently, I realized my changes and I really wanted to go back to the past so I can be the image that I want. While waiting for the chance to help somebody, I made a team called FSI-GHSU. It was a great team that helped North Korean defectors, and I really wanted to become a member of the team. After I joined the fundraising team in FSI, I saw many kinds of meetings and projects for defectors. At night, I joined many meetings in Zoom to talk a lot about the way to volunteer for defectors. And last week, I also started to donate 5,000 won too. In the past, I didn't use money for donating because I thought I can make a difference with my single donation, but I was wrong. I felt very proud of myself, even though it wasn't that much money. I noticed even a small effort can lead to a great quest. Another activity that I should do is making a poster, and I had to write about the issues and cultures of North Korea. I got nervous at first because I didn't know much about the issues and cultures of North Korea, so I searched a lot about it. My thoughts changes a lot while doing these activities. They had their own culture like us and they lived the same as South Korea. It was very similar to us, so I felt very familiar with North Korea. I have a desire to work harder for them. At first, I just thought that I could volunteer for North Korea, but I was wrong. It can be more special and valuable than volunteer work if I try my best. Before I joined this club, I thought I was not strong enough and sturdy enough to be a wise helper, but now I know that I was wrong and anyone could be a helper if they are determined and if they want to help others for real. I'm not perfect and I'm just a teenager too, but I know being friends with others can be a great experience. Sometimes maybe I can't give much help to defectors directly, but I know I can be a friend for them and give them good memories about us. Meeting somebody was always interesting for me, and I dreamed of being friends with people in other countries, and now I feel I am close. I am really glad and happy to be a helper for somebody, and I am looking forward to meeting defectors and ready to help them. I think many activities and achievements so far can be made because I'm not alone, and I look forward to growing as a team in the future. And I hope we can make a difference if we try our best. With these resolutions, I will always do my best as a member of FSI, and also a friend for many of our teammates and defectors. I feel this volunteer work is the best volunteer work I've ever done. Lastly, thanks for giving me a chance to talk about my determination, and thanks to the Lord who allowed me to be with you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hyunseong, and today I'm gonna be talking about the things that I learned throughout the experiences participating in translation project. Have you thought about the stories that are worth sharing? We, the people in the 21st century, are living in the flood of the information, and thanks to that, it is not that unfamiliar to us to share some stories. Even on social network, there is an instant post called a story. Beyond the flow of the stories, I believe there are some stories that are worth to be shared. Especially the books that I met through the translation project give me an idea of the stories that are worth to be spread. Today, I want to share my experience of me thinking about the stories that are worth to be spreading. First, I want to talk about the book translation project that I was participating in. Since it was my first time translating a book, I was concerned about whether I would be translating well or not, and I couldn't believe that I can be a translator of the book. With those concerns, the first step that I took toward the translation was pretty difficult. And as I expected, translation was not easy, and it required me putting lots of effort. However, the more I did the translation, the more I could feel improved. And it opened me to another challenge in translating. And after that project, I tried to get a translation certificate and was able to get it. The most important thing that I learned is that I could see the value of collaboration, that each piece of everyone's translation might be small, but when it finally gathered, it made a whole book. It opened my eyes to think about the value of collaboration. The first book that I participated in was a memoir about the journey of the North Korean refugee escaping North Korea. Even though it was more than a year ago, I still remember the content, since I was able to feel the emotions that the other might have felt. I had believed myself as a person who knows North Korea very well and their refugees, but by the reading book and translating the book, I could know the details and the pressing nervousness beyond the details and facts. Thanks to those projects, I could learn the beauty of being together and value of the sharing. Thank you for listening.
Earlier this year, I had the amazing opportunity of mentoring a North Korean refugee through Freedom Speakers International. Because I lived in the States and she lived in Korea, we were able to communicate through Zoom to combat the difference in time zones. Before meeting the woman I was matched with, I spoke to my mom about how nervous I was to meet her. I knew it would be a culturally fascinating experience for me, a Korean born and raised in the United States, to meet someone from a country I had heard so many negative things about. I had watched Korean movies such as 태극기를 휘날리며 and Welcome to Dongmakgol, where North Koreans were often called 빨갱이 or commies by inhabitants of other countries. I naturally assumed that all North Koreans worshipped their dictator, and I looked down at them for their mob mentality. When I was younger, I had met a few people from North Korea through my church, and I had even spent Christmas with one of them. My experience with North Korean refugees had quickly changed my perception of these people, and I scolded myself for being so caught up in what I had seen from movies. The day before I met the North Korean woman, I sat at my desk thinking about how to greet her. I knew I would greet her like I would greet any other adult, but I genuinely had no idea what to expect. Is she nice? Is she mean? Is she judgmental? What if we can't communicate? Because I was so nervous, I had a separate tab on my computer that was filled with responses to any questions she might have. It ranged from simple questions such as, where are you from, to questions like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? The next day, at 12 a.m. Mountain Time, I sat at my desk to meet her. She was one of the brightest people I had ever seen. She asked me lots of questions about myself, and I asked her lots as well. I was nervous because I didn't want to ask her anything she may have been sensitive about. Once we started the first lesson, we came up with a plan. For each lesson, we tackled a new part of her speech. We had sectioned off the speech into about 10 parts, and we focused on each part per section. She would read the section first as I listened for any areas that sounded awkward in pronunciation, then we would go back to review those parts. We frequently revisited specific words such as childhood, carrying, and unconsciousness. As the lessons went on, she skated through words she had struggled with in previous lessons. When I first met her, a small part of me still kept the stigma that she worshipped the North Korean dictator. However, as I said before, she was very bright and cheery. She was very open about her experience as a North Korean living in South Korea, as she actively wanted me to ask her any questions I had had about people like her. As I helped her through her speech, I had occasionally teared up when she would mention the horrible conditions of her childhood and how her whole world has changed from escaping. I had realized I had more stigmas about North Koreans as I heard her story again and again during each lesson. Though I cannot share the specific details of what she said in her speech and that she had told me personally, I had no idea that there were people who were still living in such unimaginable conditions. As I listened to her story, I found myself trying to guess what the next part of her story would be, because I thought I knew the lives of all North Koreans. I never interfered with her speech, and I engaged in conversations, but I realized I still held a stereotype of North Koreans. As soon as I detected it, I stopped myself. Any prejudice that I catch should end with me. I realized that stereotyping her or any North Koreans in general was stripping them of their individual identities and putting them under one label. I thought to myself, how could I possibly have done this again? I had made a promise and I broke it. I said that I hated all stereotypes, yet I sat there in front of my computer doing just that. I had told my friends that I was mentoring a North Korean refugee later on. I did not tell them any details of the woman I mentored, but I wondered what they had thought of North Koreans from a purely American perspective. Thankfully, my political science class began talking about dictatorships, and North Korea naturally came into discussion. Being the only Korean in the classroom, I had raised my hand to briefly tell the story of how my grandpa escaped North Korea. I told my class how he and his 6 siblings crossed the river and how he was self-conscious of his North Korean accent when he finally reached the South. I spoke of the death penalty and the camps in the country that my grandpa so feared. After class, my friends commented on how they thought North Korea was only filled with communists who worshipped their dictator. They had the same stigma as I did, and I quickly explained to them the reality of the country. As I said before, prejudice should stop with me if I am faced with it. If it was not for the opportunity of meeting a North Korean refugee who was living a stable life in South Korea, I would have lived the rest of my life believing that I was the only victim of stereotypes. I would have continued to feel sorry for myself and downplay the same stigmas that others were facing. I am thankful that I was able to catch myself sooner or later, but these stigmas will not end just because I stop myself. Our world is undoubtedly filled with discrimination and stereotypes. Though the efforts of individuals will make a difference, these issues will not end in itself. In order to create a world of acceptance, we must first learn to not judge others based on our limited experiences with them. To make a better world, it must start with us. I encourage you all to discard any minor or major stereotypes you believe in, and to start our process of changing the world. Thank you for listening.
Tell me something you know about North Korea.
I know that North Korea is like a dictatorship, I believe, and I know that the citizens there don't have like a lot of freedom, but that's pretty much all I really know.
So I don't know a lot about North Korea, but I know that their military is pretty big, and I hear a lot about missiles from North Korea, And I know that there's like a supreme leader in North Korea, and there's not much like media that's allowed in North Korea, because I think they have like strict laws about that.
I don't really know a lot about North Korea, but I know that kind of their government is, they call themselves communist, but I'm pretty sure it's more dictatorship. And I guess kind of the social side of North Korea is that I know that Kim Jong-un lost weight. And yeah, that's all.
I know that the rules are super strict there, and there's like restrictions on if you can leave or not, and like it's pretty hard to leave. And I heard about like sometimes people outside of North Korea will like come and visit, and then like they'll try to steal something and they'll get in like big trouble and go to like the prison. And I know like Kim Jong-un, and I know there was like this documentary about like makeup products being smuggled into North Korea or something like that. And I think that's pretty much it.
Do you know anything about North Korean refugees?
I do not know a lot, but I do know that it's extremely hard to get out of North Korea. And when you are a refugee, you have an extremely hard time existing outside of North Korea.
North Korean refugees are people who came from North Korea that wanted to leave. So I know that they can escape through like South Korea, but mostly they go to China, I think. And from there they can move back to South Korea. But I know that if you are a North Korean refugee, sometimes because it's really dangerous, they can like punish your family if your family didn't escape with you, and they can go to like camps. I mean, that's what I've heard.
I do know there has been stories how like people would leave North Korea and then go over to South Korea and kind of that, or like other places as well, to kind of leave North Korea. And I guess with the stigmas of kind of North Koreans just being in North Korea, they would have a hard time kind of adjusting to like their new place.
Not really.
So the purpose of this interview is to let you know about our organization. It's called Freedom Speakers International, and we help the North Korean refugees settle in South Korea by teaching them English, and we do fundraisers to help them and translate some books or essays written by North Korean refugees into English, so more people can access to it. Do you have any questions or things you want to say to them?
I probably have a lot of questions, like for them, like what it was like living in North Korea, and like specific reasons why you wanted to leave, and like how we can help, and things I like to say, like if you ever want to come to the US, we welcome you.
What I would say to them, I really admire you guys for being able to persevere and try to find a better living situation for yourself. And I guess for right now, I don't have any questions, but I'm pretty sure you guys are doing pretty good.
I hope you do well, and I hope you acclimate to wherever you're going well, and that the people around you treat you well, and that you can just get over whatever occurred.
I don't have any questions, but I think it's amazing what this organization is doing, and I'm really happy that it's happening.
2021 Freedom Speakers International International Leadership of Excellence Award is presented to Minjae Kim of Seoul Scholars International for his outstanding leadership and international engagement with the Freedom Speakers International Global High School Union.
First of all, it is very honored to get an award as a team leader, and through these activities and projects I did in the fundraising team, I could learn a lot of things and had a great experience through those. And lastly, I would like to say that as I get an award like Excellence Leadership Role, I will do my best to not lose my pace, and I'll try my best to do other projects as a fundraising team leader. Thank you.
2021 Freedom Speakers International International Achievement Award is presented to Hyungmin of the Asia Pacific International School for his performance and demonstration of international leadership with the Freedom Speakers International Global High School Union. Congratulations.
So I guess first things first, I have to say that I am thankful that I got an award, and I do really appreciate the fact that I guess Ms. Nguli and Mr. Casey Lartigue thought of me as somebody who was deserving of this. Yet, one thing I would like to make very clear is that this isn't really an award for myself, as crazy as it may sound, but I think it says more about FSI, about the GHSU in general. Because just 1 year ago, even 2 years ago, we didn't have anything like this. And the fact that we can be recognizing individual members for their excellence is something that I believe shows how much FSI has grown and how much the GHSU has grown over these 2 years. And so I'd like to extend my thanks not only to, well, of course, myself and Mr. Lartigue and Ms. Case and Ms. Nguli, but also like to extend it to all of the GHSU members who made this possible in the first place. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
2021 Freedom Speakers International International Achievement Award is presented to Hyowon of the Valor International Scholars for his performance and demonstration of international leadership with the Freedom Speakers International Global High School Union. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have received this award. I'd like to thank Ms. Unku and Mr. Casey Lartigue for giving me this award. I'd also like to thank the many team managers I've met throughout the years and also months, and I'd like to thank them for their fullest effort in guiding their teams and also organizing activities. I've tried my best to work for FSI for about 2 years now, and I look forward to working my hardest in the near future. Thank you.
Hello, this is Jiwoo Lee, who was invited to FSI 2021 International Youth Forum as a school representative of BHCS in Korea and as an award recipient of 2021 FSI International Achievement Leadership Award. First of all, I feel really thankful for getting this award. I'm really proud and I feel really blessed to be one of the members in FSI, because there are really a lot of opportunities and experiences that we went through, such as mentoring program, bazaar, donation, individual projects, and making club in schools, like everything. Those experiences are really valuable and meaningful, and it grew me a lot personally. So I really want to give special thanks to the co-founders of FSI for giving me those special opportunities and supporting North Korean refugees with what we have. Thank you again, and I'm really proud to be in FSI Global High School Union. Thank you.
2021 Freedom Speakers International International Achievement Award is presented to Wonhyuck Choi of the Asia Pacific International School for his performance and demonstration of international leadership with the Freedom Speakers International Global High School Union. Congratulations.
I'm honored to be a member of FSI fundraising team member, and this year I have worked a lot trying to fundraise for the community, and I really appreciate that FSI gave me a award for my effort, and therefore I will try my best. Yep.
2021 Freedom Speakers International International Achievement Award is presented to Timothy D.H. Han, Seoul Scholars International, for his performance and demonstration of international leadership with the Freedom Speakers International Global High School Union. Congratulations.
I want to say thank you very much for this award. Even though it's my first year at FSI-GHSU and I'm still learning many things, I want to really thank the organization for recognizing my progress or work that I've been doing. So I'll really focus to improve myself and dedicate myself to FSI-GHSU and become a really good and helpful member. Thank you.